Hi, folks. Omri here. I hope you're well. It's been a while since I've done a video like this, and the first one to my Substack. I took a break from work, from posting on Substack for a couple of weeks. My mother was here. If you are not a subscriber to the Reconstructing Inclusion podcast, you can get a chance to hear my mom and her perspective, Dr. Harriet Johnson's perspective, while she was here in Basel. We got a chance to sit down. We had lots of conversations, so much that I didn't capture that I look to capture in another video, but it's worth checking out. But I was following current events in the USA, particularly as it pertains to Harvard's president, and of course the so-called attacks on DEI and the what I consider the expected resistance or efforts, and some people can even call them a defense of DEI, which I don't really defend DEI. It's an idea, and I do defend making sure that organizations are inclusive, that organizations understand the tensions and complexities of difference and similarity, that organizations are vigilant about making sure that there's levels of access and fairness and context and information sharing, all those things. I think those are vital to organizational life and vital to people's well-being. So, of course, I am a big staunch supporter of those things, but I don't defend DEI, the ideological idea that most people think about when they talk about DEI. So I wanted to share a little bit about that. I'm not going to talk directly about Harvard's president and in the defense of her or in the defense of what happened or an attack on what happened or the people that were involved, whether it's Christopher Rufo or anybody else. I think that conversation is playing out. You would like to talk to me about it. I'm happy to jump on a call or to discuss it, but I'm not going to go into depth now. But a couple things I want to say in lieu of our newsletter this week, because I'm busy writing a keynote. I have to prepare a course. I have a lot going on, so I just didn't have time to sit down and write. So I wrote down some notes and I'll share them with you. A couple things. First, positioning a personality or individual as the face of something that's bigger, more complex, more nuanced than any one person for whatever reason, especially because of the fact that they have a particular identity or particular identities, is problematic. It's self-limiting. And if we are really supporters of the word DEI, it doesn't necessarily advance that work. It actually just creates a bigger target and people to go into this reductionist notion of DEI as a ideological space to get people that are less qualified into jobs, because that's what's fundamentally happening. No one can represent everyone, and in this case, everything DEI entails. So let's think about DEI for a number of people in the Anglosphere, like in the English speaking world. A lot of people think DEI is an ideological standpoint. This is not new. It's not something that we're necessarily going to be able to go back on, because as practitioners, we have to take some responsibility that we've reinforced that notion. And in reinforcing that notion, it has increased people's belief that this is true. Now, I know better. I mean, I'm even listening to some people saying we're going to not even use the words DEI anymore, and that's starting to happen. That's fine if you want to do that. It's not going to have those notions and ideas or what DEI is at its core that I'll talk about in a second go away. But in defending the Harvard president in the way that people have been defending her, this idea of a fixed standpoint for what, quote unquote, the work entails is reinforced among those that already have this belief that DEI is just an ideological standpoint for mediocrity. I obviously know better. I've been at this for 3 decades, but to put one person up as the example for DEI being attacked and for people being racists because of this situation, which is really a lot bigger than just this, president's race, but that's what it's been reduced to. I don't think it's smart. I don't think it's going to get us where we want to be. I don't even really think it helps Black people, honestly, in terms of if we want to talk about racialized people. I don't think it helps racialized people. So how do I feel about this? By a lot of people not responding with a thoughtful reflection on where Harvard's former president misstepped during her congressional hearing, how the university misstepped in her preparation, and how no one is taking responsibility for any of it. So instead of the finger pointing and doing the make wrongs and trying to point fingers at the critics, I believe that this is reinforcing the beliefs and the ideas of doubters who feel DEI is weak, ineffective, even if they have no idea what DEI is and isn't when practiced with rigor and integrity versus feelings and folly. Feelings and folly happen even when they are done nobly, done with sincerity and passion. The ideological is still there. And that, in a way, is not advancing the work we call DEI. I think this attack on DEI is perhaps one of our biggest and best opportunities to shift from the incomplete brand that's been perpetuated since the death of George Floyd. I think we can go about building the capacity to get the most from tensions and complexities of similarities and differences in organizational life, in your organization, and also get into conversations about what is strategic diversity management, a la Dr. Roosevelt Thomas, what it is. It's any mixture of similarities and differences and their respective tensions and complexities, and understanding how to manage those tensions and complexities. So I think that's kind of fundamental. I think it's also fundamental that we go deeper into being vigilant about attending the gaps in contextual understanding, information access, and basically the ability to have exposure to something that you might not have exposure to. Of course, sometimes that's because of identity, but a good amount of time it's because of the identity and the way networks are woven together or not. And so I think we can go deeper into this conversation beyond just racializing all of it. This is not the first time I've said this, but I think what we've done and reinforced as we've seen this is just put it back into that category, which I don't think is helpful. And now, the last piece is what inclusion is all about to me from the perspective of my work in reconstructing inclusion, my work in this space for the time that I've been doing it. Inclusion is about creating the capabilities for everyone to thrive and for the organization to shape its future. That's inclusion. And it's also leadership, according to Peter Senge, because leadership to Senge is the capability of a human community to shape its future. And so if we combine creating capabilities for everyone to thrive and for the organization to shape its future, we're talking about both inclusion and leadership. And honestly, that to me, if we want to say the word inclusive leadership, which I think is redundant, creating the capabilities and capacity for people to thrive and for the organization to shape its future is just the way leadership and organizational life, I believe, are best left for their evolution, for their growth, for their ability to fulfill on their mission and purpose. Now, if companies or individuals choose to take an antithetical or opposite ideological stance against cultivating the above capabilities to help people thrive and for the organization to shape its future, so be it. But that's on them. I think that would be silly to do that, but that's what DEI is to me. And if that's DEI to me, that's what I'll take forward. And if people decide to stop doing DEI, they're doing the absolute thing opposite of what organizations need to create adaptability, to create the ability to work through some of the challenges that we're facing in the 21st century. So I get it. And, you know, what people are talking about now is DEI is basically people are reacting to something political. So I say if people decide to do this, first encourage them to go beyond reactions of the news cycle and people with agendas that have very little to do with anything more than politics and self-promotion. So that's one. Two, encourage them to read broadly and engage with people who have a more nuanced view about current events and diversity, equity, and inclusion beyond a fixed standpoint. And three, if they're wedded to their standpoint to such an extent that they are unwilling to be influenced by different perspectives, wish them luck. As my dad used to frequently say, I'm paraphrasing, a human convinced against their will is of the same opinion still. So DEI is facing some attack on this ideological notion, but for what DEI really is, or what diversity, equity, and inclusion really are, there's no ideological takedown that's happening. It's only reaction. Most people haven't even dug deep enough to know what they're railing against. And we haven't done a good enough job as practitioners to really make it clear what the fundamental transformational potential of the work that I see as DEI and that I believe a lot of other practitioners that have been in this for a while see as DEI is and can be for your organization, for organizational life that you're involved in each and every day. So I hope that was helpful. I hope you keep engaging with my Substack. Share if we can share something with you or with your community, with your organization that would be helpful here. We'd love to hear from you. And again, I hope it was helpful. Make it a great day. Peace.